Why can't you resist toxic women? What is it about these creatures that makes them so enticing, so alluring, so irresistible? Some would argue that crazy pussy is the best pussy. But is this true? So we are going to look at that today. In today's show, I'm very excited. Let me get my hourglass rolling. And let's jump straight into it. My name is John Paul from bravefathers.com. And today we are talking about toxic women and why you can't resist them. Now, why is this important? Why do we need to talk about toxic women? What's so special about them that we are going to dedicate some time to discuss them right now? Well, first of all, when you understand why you can't resist toxic women, you will understand why a lot of your relationships did not work out, because that is an important factor. When you know why you can't resist toxic women, you can attract the kind of women you want who are just as exciting, just as much fun as the toxic ones, but they don't bring the drama into your life. And on the flip side, if you don't know why you can't resist toxic women, you will end up in situations that could be threatening to your life. You may end up in family courts. You may end up going through a very bitter, high conflict divorce. You will go on dates and you will not understand why things seem to work so great in the beginning, so perfect, and then they fizzle out and you keep searching for answers and you don't find those answers. Well, you find those answers today. And when you understand why you cannot resist toxic women, you will know how to become more attractive to all the women you want. You'll be the man who gets what he wants out of his dating life. You'll feel good about yourself. You'll be confident. And things that previously seemed insurmountable will now become much easier for you. So what is a toxic woman and what does it mean to resist her? A toxic woman is essentially any adult female who comes into your life and destroys everything you've built up to this point. So if you have a business, you may see that your business is getting affected. If you were hoping for a family or you have a family, you'll find that destroyed, even if that family was started with her. She'll stop you from seeing your kids. She'll make false allegations. She'll lie to you. She'll argue with you about the littlest, tiniest thing. So you could invite her for a drink, you could invite her to eat somewhere, and she'll argue with you about that, even a small thing like that. So every step of the way, you will find resistance. And if you don't know the stuff you're about to talk about today, you will end up giving in, thinking you are being mature and compromising. You'll rationalize it to yourself. But deep inside, you feel that you're doing something wrong and you just lose a little bit of respect for yourself. So for this reason, it's very, very important to know why you cannot resist toxic women. Now, let's have a little bit of background here, right? So we are all aware of the perils of being a man in the modern society. Being a modern man is quite dangerous because our society is structured such that everything you do is scrutinized. You could say the wrong thing to a female coworker, and next thing you know, you're in HR, right? Or even losing your job. You may face false allegations out of the blue when you think you did the best thing you could and you're innocent. And every day I speak to someone who has gone through that process or who's going through that process. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is we don't have a lot of strong male role models. A lot of the things that we are taught today are based on female role models. Now, you may say, yes, but what's wrong with having female role models? There is nothing wrong with having female role models, but we also need strong male role models who do not necessarily fall into the shoes of the male that the politically correct class wants him to be. So for example, being always nice to people. If you're a man, you cannot always be nice to people. But the society will say that as a man, you should be always nice. You should not have anything that upsets females. You should never make people angry or upset other people's feelings. But that is unrealistic. because also as a man, you are expected to lead. Whether it's acknowledged or not, or even when it's denied, you are still expected to take the lead, especially when it's something difficult, right? You are not allowed to lay back. I'll give you an example. If you're going through divorce or just fighting for your kids, probably you are being forced to pay for the upkeep of those children, right? And of course, that is your responsibility. I'm not saying it's not, but very often the amount of money you are paying is ridiculous, right? There's men who spend 2/3 of their income on the children, and we all know the money is not going to the children. It's just upgrading their mother's lifestyle. So what has that got to do with leadership? Well, you are supposed to go out there and find the money, right? You're supposed to take the first step or all the steps to find the money. Nobody cares whether you can afford it or not. You will face consequences if you can't. You have to go out there and get it, whatever it takes. Nobody cares about that. So when it becomes tricky and difficult, men are expected to do things. When we look at the technological fields, the scientific fields, and construction and so forth, all the difficult things, men have to go first, do them, figure them out, create a technology that circumvents that difficulty, and then females join in and say they want to be equal and do the same thing. But they don't join when the painful, dangerous, difficult part is happening. We have to take the lead on that. So leadership is not just about telling people what to do, which sometimes you have to, but it's also about telling yourself what to do and doing it, being consistent, having integrity, having the self-respect to keep your word. All that is part of leadership. And it's difficult and sometimes it's painful. But that's why men have to be respected, because we do that. So that reveals the first window to what a toxic woman does in your life, because she will devalue your contributions. She will make them seem less significant. She will let them appear like they don't matter as much, or even sometimes she will pretend that she's independent and she can do the same things you can't do, which is not true. There are certain things only women can do, and there are certain things only men can do. I do understand that is a subject of contention today, but it is still true, no matter how we feel about it. So a toxic woman will devalue your contributions. And a lot of males, for example, think it's okay for a woman to come into their life, right? And let's say she pretends in the beginning that she's going to be a stay-at-home wife, right? So a man doesn't see a problem with him providing for her, even when they don't have kids. When there are kids, we'll talk about that in a moment. But when they don't have kids, there are many men who are providing for women and actually feel good about it. So a guy doesn't have a problem with sending a woman $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month and more, and the only thing she does is to have sex with him. A lot of males don't have a problem with that. But look at the disproportionate amount of work the man has to do versus what the woman is bringing in the situation. And I understand some guys are okay with that. If you're okay with that, this is not the place for you. This is for men who respect themselves, who value themselves more than they value the woman, which is another important thing, because the toxic woman will expect you to value her more than you value yourself. And society will encourage you to value her more than you value yourself. So the result of that is you end up giving and giving and giving, doing what you are supposedly supposed to do, but then you end up losing. You end up losing. And anybody who's been through family courts or who has been in any serious drama situation with a toxic woman, you know what I'm talking about. You realize how much the system is against you. So you really don't want to have this woman in your life. You don't want toxic women to come into your life. So whilst we're searching for the answer as to why you can't resist toxic women, let us now review some of the ways that the toxic women come into your life, right? Because the clues are in the little steps as we keep going. So now, you have a woman that you meet, whether you met her through a social circle, whether you attracted her by approaching her or maybe on a dating app, you met her somehow, right? So it's not really of relevance how you met her. What matters is that you met and you've expressed some kind of romantic interest in her and she has reciprocated. So for instance, you've said to her you want to go out for a drink with her or on a date, somewhere, and she has accepted. So that is our premise. That's where we start from, right? And toxic women, people have a very wrong belief about them. And a lot of guys will say the women switch up later on, right? They are nice in the beginning, they switch up later on, which is not true. There is an illusion of that they switch up. And we'll come to that in just a moment. But first, let's look at the start of that relationship. So what happens is you meet her and usually she's perfect. Or she's very nice and you really like her. She's doing exactly the thing you want her to do, right? Or as close to it as possible. So let's say you were previously in an abusive relationship, and now she's treating you very kindly. Maybe your previous girlfriend never listened to you, or no girl has listened to you ever, and she listens to you. So you're like, wow, this is different. This is special. Maybe she's more touchy with you. She touches you way more, makes you feel good. She's like, oh, I like your arms, or I like your body, and so on and so forth. Now, in general, there's nothing wrong with women doing this. The problem is, if you have not been proactive, and even if you have been about going about your dating life, and you are not if you're honest with yourself and you say, yeah, I don't really get girls like that, you have to be honest with yourself. Not that you don't get girls at all, but if it's not common for women to do that, there may be a problem. And even if it is a problem. But you should realize that she's giving you special treatment right off the bat. Now, that is a red flag, but most guys miss it. Why? Because there's nothing wrong with her showing you that she likes you. But you will notice that over time, you start doing more and more things to get in the situations where you feel that pleasure that she's giving you, right? So again, if let's say you've had a lot of troubles in your past relationship and she's willing to cuddle with you and listen to all your sadness and hold you and make you feel good, and you barely know her, right? You think it's good, and society will tell you that it's good, but it's very bad for you, because what she is doing is she's fishing for all your weaknesses. And because you are in a vulnerable state, you will tell her your weaknesses, you will tell her what your ex did to hurt you, and you're essentially teaching her the tricks she needs to apply in order to control you. You will actually be like a fly, and the spider is slowly wrapping her web around you, little by little, by little by little. And that's how you end up trapped. She will listen to your problems. She will act like you're the only man in the world. But you'll notice something that is very interesting. She will also tell you her story. And in her story, she's going to be a victim. And I can tell you right away that the story she's telling is the story she's going to be telling about you when she's done with you. So we've arrived at the first clue. The first clue is you can't resist her because she caters to your weaknesses. She caters to your pain. She caters to the disappointment you have felt with other women. All the things that have not worked out for you. She helps you by giving you a feeling that it's soothing. Now you feel you can relate to her because she's opening up to you about her story. So now you feel like you have a companion. It's you and her against the world. You and her against the world. Yes. that is irresistible. But why? Why is it irresistible? Let's keep going. So now, you will also notice that when you want to do something, little by little, or sometimes right away, she starts refusing. And it can happen very quickly, within a week or two, a month of knowing her, you'll notice that you start arguing about the tiniest things. But because you are already so deep into the nice part of her, you don't want to let her go. But part of you is screaming inside that you need to go, you need to let her go, you need to leave her, right? That there is a better woman out there for you. But no, you will not do it. Because at this stage, you are in too deep. And you're trying to convince yourself that she's right. You rationalize her behavior. Because again, male leadership is not respected. But in reality, if you say to a female, hey, I want you to come here with me, she needs to follow you. Because you are the one inviting, usually you are the one paying. And in any case, you are the one who made the offer. Right? So imagine you go to visit a friend and your friend says, hey, I got this watch for you. And you say, why did you get me this watch? Why didn't you buy me a PS5 instead? Or you go to your friend and he says, hey man, let's go, I'm taking us for beers. And you tell him, no, take me for whiskey instead. And your friend is like, no, I said we're going for beers. And then you start arguing with your friend about you guys going for beer, right? You're not going to argue. You're just going to be like, okay, you know what? I want to go for whiskey. You want to go for beer. If we can't get it in the same place, we just meet up another day, right? And we think that a different rule applies to women. But it doesn't. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So she'll start undermining you, but in a way where at this stage it's still supported by society, because society will say it's an equal 50-50 partnership, right? And a lot of men will say the same thing, and when you question them about it, they start backtracking because they know they don't have an answer. The truth is, and that gives us another clue, most men are taught to submit to women, whether they know it or not. They are taught to obey what a woman wants and to do what a woman wants and to essentially follow the woman's lead. And then they guilt you by saying, if you don't follow, that means you're trying to impose yourself on her. And I hear a lot of people argue that, oh, in the society we live in, you have to do that. You don't, because you have the option of walking away. And they're like, yeah, but then you walk away from every woman. Maybe you will, but you won't, because there are women who will respect you. And if you don't expect that, you will always go with toxic women, and you think that's how all women behave. You see, a lot of the advice out there that we have today is essentially saying you should accept toxic women in your life. All this talk about hypergamy, monkey branching, what else do they have? I don't even know all of the terms. But all these red pill terms and all this other stuff, I'm not arguing that they are not real, but they are only real if you choose to live your life like the average male. And when I say the average male, that includes the richest man on the planet, because the woman, no matter how you want to convince yourself, don't think you are above average because you are rich. They don't. How do we know? Look at all the famous, good-looking, rich people who still get screwed by women. And guys wrongly think that if they got screwed, that means you're going to get screwed as well. No. You have to understand that human beings on a fundamental level have never changed from the day the first human was created. So the dynamics are the same, right? So 100,000 years ago, as far as we can tell, we didn't have mansions and laptops and tablets. Maybe we did, but we don't know about that, right? Let's say 6,000 years ago, because that's closer to the timeline we understand. We didn't have all this technology. And yes, there were men who were using force to have women. But we are not talking about that. We are talking about women who want to be with you. who look at you and want to be with you. So another clue is the reason why you can't resist toxic women is you've been conditioned to think that women look for things that they don't look for in a man they want. Which I think is a great time to bring up how women actually view men. So, there are three main ways that women look at men. Just like how we view women when it comes to romantic relationships, right? So I'm not talking of business, I'm not talking of work, I'm not talking of education, I'm talking strictly one-on-one romantic relationships, right? Dating. So there are three ways the women look at the men. One is never. I don't want him in my life. I don't want him talking to me. I don't want him near me at all. He does not exist as far as I can tell. And for most women, that's how they view most men. Now, bear in mind, one woman may put you in a never bucket and another woman may put you in another bucket or box. So the fact that one woman sees you one way doesn't mean all women see you that way, even though that's what society will try to convince you, which is why guys get so hurt by rejection. But that's not true. For example, I remember one night I went out and there was this girl that just was so brutal. She just rejected me up front. Like I walked up to her, wanted to dance with her in the bar. She was like so rude. And just right next to her was another girl who was interested in me, and we ended up sleeping together. We had dated for a while, right there. And I met another girl that same night. Right? And that one ended up performing fellatio on me. So, three different women, three different things that happen, right? One woman does not decide your whole dating life, which is very important because a toxic woman and toxic women in general, which we do have a lot of them, you can see them on TikTok all day long, YouTube and other channels, Instagram. All these women, they try to make you believe that one woman decides on your dating life, but she doesn't. So if you are in the box of never for one woman, that does not mean that all women see you that way, right? And even if 90 out of 100 see you that way, there'll be another 10 who put you in another group. So then we have the second bucket, which is the most common one, which is, he will do. But if you're in the he will do box, what it means is that you have to compensate for the fact that she doesn't really want you. She may like you, she may be turned on by you sexually, she may think you're good looking or generally attracted to you and want to have some kind of relationship with you. And the keyword is may. Oops. We need to pause this. What happened? All right, hold on. I'm just changing my battery here because it appears it's off. So just a moment. One, two, all right, we're back. I apologize for that. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for sticking around. So I was saying that the fact that a woman does not put you in one bucket or thinks you're in one bucket does not put you in all the others. And if you're in the he will do bucket, it basically means that while she may be attracted to you, she still wants you to compensate. And depending on how much or how little she's attracted to you, she will treat you differently, but expect more of your compensation, right? So that is where the average male lives. So let's say she really does not like you at all, but you have a lot of money. She will take that money, and some may even sleep with you whilst you give them that money. but they still see you within that group. You understand? They are not really crazy about you. At best, you are a second choice. And again, that's what the average male is. So you could be a billionaire, and if she doesn't really feel the attraction for you, you are still in that box. But then because you have the millions to spend on her, she will be with you. And to the outside world, it may look like, oh, the guy got you because he's successful, which is true, but he doesn't really have you. As a woman, you don't really have that woman. She's just there to get the money. And that's where the hypergamy, the monkey branches and stuff come in, because she's going to look for a guy who has more, because you don't really mean much to her, right? And most of the red pill and the pickup artists and the dating coaches and most of the dating advice out there is around that. So the honest truth, which most guys don't want to accept, is that if you are seeking that advice and you're constantly listening to that kind of advice where they say, oh, how to buy girl stuff, how to look smart, how to do all that stuff, it means you are in that large group of average males. And I know this is heresy in the modern world, and that is where most people get upset with me and they don't want to listen to my message, which is fine. I also spread my message. But that is the key point. So the other clue is, if you can't accept in the woman's eye, you are the average male, you will not be able to resist a toxic woman. Because a toxic woman will make the average male feel like he is a man god. She'll make you feel like a god. That is one of the tricks, because she knows you're not. Not because you don't have it in you, because you don't see yourself that way. You don't view yourself as God's gift to woman. You don't see your presence when a woman comes to you as of value to her. You may say you do, but you don't believe it with every fiber of your body. Which means you cannot belong to the most important bucket, which very few men belong to, which is a man she craves. She craves that man's attention, his approval, his dick, his kisses, his words, his just very presence. So people think you have to be rich and famous and whatever to be in that category. It is not true. Because there are guys who are rich and famous, and the girls may feel about them that way based on the fantasy. But when they meet them or stay with them for a while, they realize he's just an average male. Just that he's got money and he's got fame. And for us males, it's very difficult to process that idea. Because from birth and from what we can see, that is what the reality is. You get looks, money, and status, and that's what gets you girls. But here's the thing. When you're in the category that the woman craves, right? And again, the fact that one woman puts you in that category doesn't mean all women will put you in that category. But most women will recognize that some women will put you in that category. That's the difference. That's the difference. Because there's also a factor of compatibility, right? So you will not be compatible with most women. Just like you're not compatible with most men as far as friendship goes. Some people are just not compatible, right? Their way of doing things and their lifestyles and their goals, objectives just don't align. So you may have that with women, but that does not mean that the woman will reject the idea that another woman will crave you. In fact, she'll be very cognizant of the fact. And I'll give an example. A lot of guys talk about cock blocking, and I get that too. But I've literally had women give me and their friend that I just met that night a room in the house to have sex in. So that's like the opposite of cock blocking. I have had women leave their apartments. I have had women saying, look, I know you go with my friend. Do you mind if I just have your phone number just in case of something? She said, not that you do something, but just in case. Sure, here's the number. And you take the girl home. You could argue that is the opposite of cock blocking, right? And a lot of guys who don't get those experiences, but the reason why they don't get those experiences is because to be in that bucket that the women crave, you have to put yourself in that box first. And you have to start rejecting any woman that you realize does not crave you that way. Why? Because she's going to be toxic to you. So a woman can be toxic to you not because she's a toxic woman, but because she's not compatible with you, because she doesn't crave you like that. Even though she may be sexually attracted to you, but you're not her ideal type. You're not, when I say her ideal type, not the one she imagines, but the feeling she gets is not like, oh, I want him, like I really want him. And when you are in that category, when she wants you, listen, the guy, next guy could be famous, good looking, and rich. She would still choose you. And it has happened to me, it has happened to many guys. You see, all these guys who are worried about Chris Brown and all those concerts, like I don't worry about things like that. First of all, it wouldn't bother me at all, but it doesn't bother me at all. I'm not worried that Chris Brown or Asha will take my girl. Because if she does, then she was supposed to go anyway. But secondly, they can't. Because I would only pick a girl who actually wants me. Who wants me? And you say, oh, John Paul, you're crazy, you're full of yourself. Yes, I am full of myself. Which is what helps you attract the right woman. You know, a lot of the things that they tell you are toxic about men are the things you need. You're not going to please society and be the one that everybody likes and get the woman you want. It's never going to happen. Those are two incompatible ideas. You cannot be a man who is slinging dick, right? As much as, as he wants in town, whatever, and then be the guy that everybody says is a nice guy. That doesn't mean everybody will hate you. That doesn't mean people will not respect you. But you'll not be liked by a lot of people. And sometimes you'll be told you are toxic. And you have to be willing to hear that and not give a fuck. Are you willing to do that? You see, part of the reasons why you can't resist toxic women, and you've come this far, so I'll share this with you, is because you want to be seen as a nice guy. It's because you want to be liked. It's because you don't want to be an asshole. When I say asshole, I don't mean somebody who goes out on purpose to hurt people's feelings. What I mean is somebody who will do what he wants as his own primary objective, like as his own main, most important goal, as treating himself as the most important. You want to be the nice giving guy to a woman that you've only known for 6 months. You think it's a long time? It's not. Ask anybody who got divorced. And you say, oh, I'm going to be different. That's why you can't resist those women, because you think you are going to be different. The harsh reality is you have to choose the narrow path of being your best self to yourself, for yourself, first and foremost, if you don't toxic women in your life. Because that's the only way you'll be able to resist them. Because they are enticing. And the comfort is enticing. Very enticing. Right? Very enticing. And it's nice. But you get to a stage where a woman's compliment has zero value to you. Think of the sexiest woman you know on the planet. If she were to stand in front of me right now and said, oh, you're so good looking, guess what? I don't give a shit. If I find her sexually attractive and she wants to sleep with me, then I may have some interest in her, right? But as far as dating is concerned, any woman who is not sexually attracted to me in the dating world does not exist. She's irrelevant to me. It doesn't matter what she is. As long as she's not interested in me, I'm not interested in her. Now, pickup artists and so forth will tell you, and not just pickup artists, because people get hung up on pickup artists. The dating advice in general is, oh, you can win her over. No, that means you're in the second category. And depending on how little she wants you, that's how much more you have to compensate. So your winning her over is literally compensating for the fact that she doesn't want you. And she will never want you. or she will never want you more than she wants you now. But what she will do is open her legs at some point, because it's like, yeah, well, why not? Women like sex too, but that doesn't mean she really craves you. And the moment somebody comes in that gives her more than you do, or that she likes more than you do, she's going. So again, she could be a good woman, but she'll be toxic to you. Sometimes women act toxic because they want you to break up with them, and they don't like the fact that you don't have the confidence to leave. And they're frustrated. They don't want to be seen as the bad guy, and they expect you as a man to lead and actually break up with them. That happens too. So she may end up being toxic because of that. And you think you're reconciling, you're building your relationship back. No, it was dead before you even realized it was dead. Most likely before it began. If you had to win your wife over, or your girlfriend over, or win any female over, she never wanted you. And you'll not experience the woman who really wants you until you're willing to discard these women who don't really want you. Until you're willing to say, you know what, out of these 100 women, only 4 really want me. But I could get with this, let's say, other 20 girls, but I'm going to say no to them. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to do that? Because another reason why you can't resist toxic women is that you tolerate them in your life. You allow them into your life. You bring them in and you accept their toxicity. So they get embedded into how you live your life. And in the long run, what happens is you become conditioned more and more to allow these toxic women into your life. And you are not willing to be in the first box of being the one she craves. And accepting that most women will not crave it that way. And willing to cancel, not to go with women who don't crave you. Who are not all about you, who are not all teeth when they're talking to you, who are not trying to get closer to you. The ones where you say, come here, she just comes and gives you a kiss. Even if you just met. There's women who like you so much that you smile with them, and then you say, come here, and they'll kiss you. And a lot of guys will say, oh, well, that means she's a hoe, that she's cheap, that she's easy. You see, if you judge women that way, then you can't have a woman who craves you. Because she'll feel the judgment and she'll not be able to open herself up to you. She will not be able to open herself up to you because you judge her. We all want the woman to be sexual with us, but when she is, we tend to judge her as men, right? So that is another problem. So one may ask, how did we get into this position? How did men on such a large scale become so easy for toxic women to take over? And my position on that is, from childhood, we've been essentially taught to look up to women, to look at men as bad and to look at women as good. So then we discard our masculine characteristics and traits that would make us attractive. Because remember, traits have a cycle. They take time to develop. So if you are, let's say, 40 years old or 30 years old or 50 years old or 60 years old, whatever age you are, even 20 years old, you've spent your whole life developing unattractive traits and been told that those are attractive. So if you bring flowers on a first date, that is unattractive. But the woman who gets those flowers will be like, oh, that's so sweet, that's so cute. She may even sleep with you. It does not mean she finds you that attractive. You're just doable. And women have that too, just like us, right? You can see a girl that is like, I would never date her, but I would hate that. We think that way too. So women do as well. They can't show it that they think that way because they will get judged by society, right? Because men will call them all kinds of names, right? And many guys will reject them as potential wives. Imagine if every guy on the planet understood what I'm saying. And then you realize the woman you're going to spend $200 on a dinner on, you realize the fact that you have to spend that $200 means she doesn't really want you. Right? You've seen videos on women saying, I don't go on coffee dates. She goes on coffee dates, but she doesn't go on coffee dates with you. She doesn't go on the coffee date with the average male. And again, no matter how rich you are, to a woman, you're still average if you don't have certain characteristics that a man has. So you winning her over, you putting all that effort should be a sign to you that she does not want you. Which is, again, a difficult thing for men to accept because their whole lives they've been taught you have to prove yourself to a woman. If you're trying to show her that you can protect and provide, you're already losing. And perhaps you want to wait till your divorce goes through or starts to find out that you were losing. And a lot of guys make the mistake of thinking, oh, and then we had this fight and then everything went wrong. No. It was wrong before you guys started your relationship. You just didn't know it. You just did not know it. So there is that conditioning that most men subject themselves to. So most of us don't know it. So when you get a chance to be aware of it, that's when you can wake up. But it's a painful process because you realize, wow, this girl that I was so much in love with never liked me. And you realize that, oh shit, she might have been cheating on you, which she possibly was, with a guy she craves. Because often the guys who realize this stuff are like, wait a minute. There is 100 guys in this room. I can see that 3 other guys are ones that women really want. And there's like 60 guys that, you know, can get some kind of access, and the rest the women don't care about. That gives me, and there's like 100 girls in the room or 200, whatever, that gives me lots of girls to pick from. So they don't have to get every girl, but hey, 10 girls, 20 girls, 30 girls, 40 girls, even just 6 girls is better than 1 girl, right? So those guys don't jump into settling, and they are very frustrating to most males who are relationship and monogamy oriented, because they're like, I'm trying to be so good to this one woman, and we've been divorced or separated just 1 month and she's already sleeping with him. Of course she is, because he's in the craving box. You are in the, he will do box. The average male box. So the never box, average male box, and the craving box. And the craving box is very small, tiny. But we are conditioned not to build ourselves into the craving box. So the few guys that you see, you'll be like, how can women want him? He doesn't even have a car. And the women give him their cars to drive. We've also seen that. Oh, he doesn't even have a place to stay. And the woman gives him the keys to her place. He doesn't even have any money. And this expensive lawyer is giving him a large part of her salary so he can have some money. Or even taking money from her boyfriend or a rich husband and giving it to somebody else. Right? I'm not going to mention names, but because I don't want to distract from the conversation. But recently there was a story of a very famous newscaster, journalist who's rich and famous, and the wife was cheating on him with the pool boy. The pool boy. She wasn't cheating on him with Bill Gates or some rich person. No. The guy who cleaned their pool. And that is because the pool boy probably allowed himself to have those traits. And the guy who owned the house did not. And part of the conditioning is we see men who speak the way I speak getting punished by society. So that discourages other males because they're like, oh no, I don't want to end up like him. So you have to understand that if you choose to be average, you always attract toxic women. You always attract toxic relationships. It doesn't matter how good she is, because she will always be frustrated because she always knows that there is the guy she craves for. Or she could meet a guy for whom she has a craving and you are not that. That is very frustrating, and she'll take that frustration out on you. Think about it. If you've ever dated a girl that you didn't really like, but she was just convenient, and then you met another girl that you liked more, that frustration, that like, I want to be with her. Or in comedies, they always have the sister, right? Who is like more feminine, more gentle, more attractive, more friendly. And then there's the wife who is just annoying. She may be good looking and everything, but she's just not that exciting. And the guy is looking at the sister like, I wish I could get with the other sister, right? That kind of thing. A woman feel that a lot because they talk to their friends. If you don't take sex seriously, you think it's just all about, pumping her and coming, and you think she's had an orgasm, so it's good. No. You have to work on your sex skills. I'm not saying you have to do backflips, and land on the vagina or anything like that. But you need to always take it a bit seriously. Educate yourself. Just know a little bit more every week, every month, so that you improve your sex game. Because sex is very important to women. It's very important to women. The sex toy industry sells billions of toys every year. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? It's a huge industry everywhere in the world. Even in countries where you would say are underdeveloped, women have dildos. Think about that. Think about that. So you have to change the way you think about things. You have to change the way you think about life. And you have to change the way you live your life if you don't want toxic women in your life, if you want to be able to resist them. You have been conditioned to be within the average male category. That's why no matter what you do, if you're honest with yourself, no matter how much money you make, no matter what car you drive, what clothes you buy for yourself, and all the looks maxing, it's still not working. Clavicular is the best example. Right? Outside of his shows, he's just like any other guy. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody gets rejected. Even the guys who are craved by women still get rejected, because it's not every woman who's going to crave you. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with not every woman wanting you. Don't try to please every woman. But you're not going to be frustrated with women. You're not going to complain about women, because there will be nothing to complain about. You won't have to argue with women, because you will not date argumentative women. Right? I'm not saying there can never be a disagreement, but there's a difference between a disagreement and a full-on fight and a full-on argument. There's a difference. So you have to choose wisely, and you have to choose very carefully. And it starts with choosing who you are as a man, right? So let's summarize what we've discussed today. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I'm always happy to answer. You can also get in touch with me through bravefathers.com. So let's look at what we have discussed. Now, we've understood why it's important not to have toxic women in your life. And the most important reason is that they bring you down. They make your life more difficult. They could ruin your reputation. They drain your wallet. They drain your health. They drain your peace. On the flip side, if you do start attracting women who you find are not toxic, they will usually be very, very attracted to you, and they just want to be with you and around you. You don't have to compensate for their company. You don't have to spend much money on them. You don't have to be on the phone with them for hours for them to like you. None of that. They just like you for you. And you get to have a better, more interesting, more exciting life with women than the average guy does. You can tell stories, if you choose to, that most guys will never experience. Perhaps those who experience them, sometimes they pay for those experiences, but you get them completely free without any extra effort. Why? Because the woman chose you. So a toxic woman is essentially any woman who reduces the quality of your life. So there doesn't have to be something wrong with her. She doesn't have to be even badly intentioned towards you. She may have even the best intentions. But if she's not right for you, if she's not compatible with who you are and what you do, she is toxic for you. She may be perfect for another man, but you have to have the confidence to walk away from her. So now we look at the reasons why men can't resist toxic women. One is because they are afraid of losing any woman. They say, wow, I struggled to get a date for the past 9 months. I finally got one. I can't just let her go. Right? So that's one of the reasons, because they don't know how to increase their options. Or they just like the girl so much and they want to convince themselves that they want to be with her. Now, a woman who's very toxic will actually steady you, give you the things you want, the things you are missing, the semblance of peace you may be looking for, or just making you feel as the proverbial man, and you will think she's the best thing in the world. She will also share with you her story, in which she's usually the victim and somebody else is the bad guy, often the ex, maybe her family. And you may not realize that a time will come when you will be the bad guy in her story. You just don't know it yet. So then we look at some of the conditioning that men have in the society, right? From birth, we are taught women are good, men are bad. You have to protect and provide for women. Women exist, right? We are taught to see sex with a woman as the most valuable thing in the world, and to many people, including males, getting sex justifies a lot of bullshit, including being disrespected. Including having to deal with arguments. People think arguments are normal. They think a woman nagging in their ear is normal. They think sitting in the car in the driveway before going home is normal. That's how society conditions you. If you end up in family court, the courts tend to favor the woman, the mother. And we see that as normal. The weaknesses that we have in ourselves, with ourselves, are encouraged. So if a guy ends a relationship and he's sad for 3 months, that is seen as all right. But if he goes and finds a girl the next day, that is seen as a problem, even though she dumped him. And people think that he's right, he's a nice guy, blah, 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 which is bullshit. It's bad because the relationship is done. There's no need to waste time because nobody's going to reward you for that time. Yeah, you may get some praise. But again, if you are dependent on praise from people, from women, that is a weakness. There's nothing wrong with enjoying praise, don't get me wrong. But if you depend on it for your well-being, you depend on it because you want to feel good about yourself, that is going to affect you negatively and you're going to have problems. Now, there are 3 boxes in which women put men. as we discussed. So there's the never box where you're essentially invisible to them and they don't want you. There is the average male box, which is where most males are. And again, being rich, good looking, and famous does not take you out of that box. It really does not. And again, we've seen celebrities and others being screwed over the women. We've seen famous rich people paying for sex, large amounts of money. And they have to pay because those women don't want them. So the way the average male box works is the more she wants you, the less you have to pay. So you could be very attractive to a woman, so you may have to do very little to keep her, right? But you're still not the top guy in her mind. And over time, that will bring toxicity into the relationship because she will not be satisfied and you will not be satisfied. So that will bring about a toxic energy. And the last box is the one where she craves you, where she just wants to be around you. She just wants to be in your presence, and she doesn't care if you just holding hands on the street or you go to an expensive restaurant. She just wants to be around you. And if you've been lucky enough, and when I say lucky, because you realized your worth or a woman noticed your worth and you've experienced that, then you know what I'm talking about. And unfortunately, most males don't know it. And when you're in that box, it often flips. That's why you see guys who the woman says, hey, just take my car. The first night she comes over, she may just offer you her keys. Like, yeah, if you need the car, just use it. Or the guy moves into a house and people say like he's playing video games all day and she has to go to work. And yeah, to some degree that may frustrate her at some point, but she will stay in that relationship because she wants that guy. And it's not just the sex. It's not, the sex is a part of it, but it's not just the sex. But that should show you how important sex is to women as well. And the fact that men judge women based on their sexual desires, based on their sexual cravings, based on, you know, their expression when it comes to sex. That's also one thing that will push away women who want to be more open with you. You know, and I would argue that it does attract toxic women when you're judgmental because they will present to you a fake side of themselves. But often, and this is an important point, often they don't really want you, but because you believe they are good girls, right? Because they will dress like a good girl, they'll act like a good girl and so forth, act like, you know, they don't sleep around and so on and so forth. They want to get to know you first, and all that nonsense. Because you stick around and you see those things and you think she's a good girl, she can hide the fact that she doesn't really want you. And then when you start having sex with her and she says, oh, not today, not tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, whatever, you will think it's normal because you think that that's what good girls do. Now, of course, if she doesn't want it, you should walk away from her. That is the only thing. She doesn't want you. Respect yourself, respect her, and leave it. But if you stay in those situations, then you're opening the door to toxic women. And finally, and most importantly, you need to love yourself more than anything else in this world. It's a very difficult concept to understand because if you have kids and or family, you are like, no, I love them more. No. You need to love yourself more. Ultimately, they are part of you. So the more you love yourself, the more you love them. You don't need to bring them down or anything like that in your mind. Just love them as much as you can and then love yourself some more. And that's how you avoid toxic women in your life. Because at the very least, they will not be able to get through your defenses. They will not be able to get through to you to enter your life. And only the women who truly want you, only the women who truly desire you, only the women who crave you will get a chance to be with you. And that's how you win. And that's how you end up with a better life. So, thank you so much for watching. My name is John Paul from bravefathers.com. If you need help with your family court case or you're struggling with your relationship, trying to get out, and you have kids and you're fighting for your kids, I'm here to help you. I love helping fathers reunite with their children and get better relationship with their children. Even if there is parental alienation, there are ways you can overcome that. And I'm here to help you with that. So if you need any kind of help or have any kind of questions, comment below, and of course, subscribe and get in touch with me at bravefathers.com. So thank you so much. This is what I've got for you for today.